All right. Oh, yeah. You think you can lie to me? It's written all over your face. Scientific electricity. You created out in space. You created out in space. Oh, yeah. Oh. You can do what you want to do. Tap our phones. We know you're listening. You can think how you want to think now. But you can't stop us. The truth is rising. With the lose, we refuse. We refuse. I'll go down without a fight. You think that I can't see? See what you're doing to me. You cannot defeat me. Cause I'm out of your league. Step ahead of you. You think that I can't see? A higher power's with me. A highest power's with me. All praises be. All right, all praises be the Most High. A higher by Shimei Shire will rock. Yes, that's the single. A higher power's with me. Of course, you all have access to that. But hey, welcome to our first installment of Sofa Talk. That's right, Sofa Talk with the GOCC, the Gathering of Christ Church. How are you doing out there, brothers and sisters? I see you all are chiming in. You know the routine. Hit the like, subscribe, and after this, go to the channel and hit the bell because YouTube is trying to cut off all our subscribers. Even if you subscribe, they'll just unsubscribe you. So make sure you go to our channel. You got to do all this crazy stuff. Hit subscribe, and then after the broadcast, go to the actual channel and then hit the bell, and hopefully you'll be you'll get some information on when we're streaming like this spontaneously. Okay, you get notifications. But anyway, all praises be to the Most High. We have a special installment of Sofa Talk. I'm sitting on this sofa. It'll be a white sofa in the future. Don't worry about it. But we're having an open discussion today, and this is our first segment of Sofa Talk with the GOCC, myself with Elder Rawchaa, and of course, this is going to be, we're going to have what you would call community or regular discussion with a biblical spin, to try to give some resolve in these times of trouble within the earth and bring a more spiritual perspective to everyday issues. Now, of course, some of this eventually we'll be getting some interviews on the street in Philadelphia, whatever the case is, once the weather subside. Somehow, now, I don't know if you all live in the UK, but they have given the United States eastern shoreline on the East Coast, they have given us United Kingdom weather.
Oh, raining all the time.
Okay, I got it. Okay. So anyway, here it is. Our first guest for Sofa Talk, brothers and sisters. You got it. Sister Shirley. Sister Shirley, live with the Gathering of Christ Church, GOCC, Sofa Talk. There goes Sister Shirley. Okay, better yet.
Shalom.
Shalom, sister. How you doing?
Shalom, family. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well now. You've sent us your picture, but you know what? I'm going to take your picture down, and we're going to bring you live. We're going to bring you live with everyone here, live with the Gathering of Christ Church, Sofa Talk. How are you?
All is well. What a blessing. What a privilege to be the first one, or just to be on Sofa Talk. I'm excited about it.
Okay, for those who don't know, Sister Shirley is a pillar. Her and her family, her husband in the church, been working with the church for a long time. Music director, you name it, she does it for the church. And you actually have a weekly blog talk show. Would you like to give the brothers and sisters the details on that?
Okay, so Sister Carol and I host the Blog Talk Women's Show every Monday at 7. And we hope you dial in and join in, because we do try to discuss a lot of issues that are relevant, and that the sisters don't want to necessarily, or let's say it just doesn't get talked about. It's a good platform, so it would be great for the sisters to join in. Keeps us together, helps us to, build a sisterhood throughout the congregation. So join in, and we come in at 7 o'clock. Same number, 515-605-9327. Dial in, and of course press 1 to get in so that you can be a part of the conversation. It's exciting.
Well, thank you for coming on with our first installment of Sofa Talk, Sister Shirley. And, right behind what you've just discussed as far as what you do on our weekly basis on a Monday, it leads us to our first installment in conversation on the back of a discussion we had on Blog Talk a couple of weeks ago. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I have to apologize to everyone, because we were supposed to, subsequent to that, do a roundtable discussion, but we didn't have an opportunity to do that. So I thought that we at least have this discussion to give more clarity on what most are talking about, even though we've discussed some things like some of the curses that have ailed our communities, men and women. Okay, the things we do that we need to really take a good look at on how it's affecting the generations after us. But out of that whole discussion 2 weeks ago, what came out of it more so was being inundated with some praises for us discussing things that most sweep under the rug or don't talk about at all for whatever reason. Or, believe it or not, emails coming in saying, well, listen, they don't know how to feel about that discussion, especially the details of what came out in particular with women when it comes to their hair, weaves, and things of that nature. So I thought that it's unfair to have strictly a male perspective on how we view things. Maybe there's some things that we don't understand. And through that understanding, maybe there's a better way to communicate to help our people with these particular issues, if there are issues at all. Okay. Now, I'm going to relay it to you. I have a few questions I would like to ask you. Okay. Right. But when it comes to someone's hair and all that and their relationships, I would like to say now, our discussion a couple of weeks ago had nothing to do with any men anywhere trying to bring forth a law forcing women to do certain things with their hair. I want to put that out there. Okay. That's your individual choice. And any man out there trying to use that broadcast to do so is wrong. Okay. Many topics were discussed within that. And it's all of us looking internally, men looking internally with the things they're doing to contribute to these curses and this dysfunction within our community. And sisters doing it also, understanding that we are affecting our children. It wasn't to be, these discussions are not to be used as a social weapon against your other half. Let me make that clear. Make that clear. But anyway, going right into it, the discussion, after we have that discussion, especially when it came to the discussion on sisters dealing with alopecia and hair loss and things of that nature, okay, and this advent in a lot of women in our community putting on the weaves and putting on those things. Men, to some degree, I feel, can't even discuss these things openly or to be an offense, but women can discuss this understanding the dynamic. Okay? Women more so can discuss it and bring understanding to it. So let me ask you, right after that particular discussion, what was the environment when it came to the sisters after the discussion came out, because I think Gaja mentioned it in particular, saying that he believed that sisters are beautiful and that we need to do something about that. They should do something more about their hair as far as choosing weaves or whatever the case is. Now, it was open for anyone to bring their opinion on one topic or one point they feel we could change to help our children. And he came with that. And I believe the emphasis out of that whole discussion was focused on that particular thing. So why do you think that's so?
Well, I think that there's so much discussion about it, and it's so funny that you should come with this, because I've gotten a lot of conversation and a lot of communications from the sisters, some feeling very hurt about it, some feeling, they really didn't quite understand where the brothers were coming from. But the thing is, when you say, what can you change about a sister, or what would you change, you have to be really careful when you start talking about things of that nature, because particularly for some of the sisters that are doing the hair thing, meaning putting weaves and wigs and things of that nature, some of them are doing it just as fashion, but many of them are doing it because their hair is a result of the curse that the Benjamites, the Levites, and the Judites are under. And their hair is a problem. And it's very, very hard for a woman to be proud of something that's been cursed and the way that it performs. And so the scripture says a woman's hair is her glory. So a woman with no hair may not feel too glorious. So she's going to try and find a way to supplement. I've talked about this with other sisters, and basically, if you think about it, what a sister wants to do is she wants to be normal, and not having hair for a sister is not normal. It's almost like if you lost a tooth. You're going to go and get a false tooth and put it into your mouth. No one's going to say, well, look, don't put that in your mouth. I need to keep it real. I need to have, they're going to be happy that you put something in that front tooth and you didn't look like a clown anymore. It's the same thing in some instances for sisters that are putting weaves and different hair into their head. They want to look normal. They want to look and feel feminine and glorious. And sometimes with what they're given to work with, it's difficult.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it real quick. Right? Because you would see some brothers now, they'll see the videos, they'll come into the truth or come into the Bible and say, well, see, the other nations are praying over the hair and this, that, and the other. I don't want this. And I would say we need to be considerate, giving honor to the sisters as the weaker vessel, understanding that that's a vulnerable, and I have to be more knowledgeable of this, that's a vulnerable scenario for them. It's a very, very emotional thing with them. All right. And I'm saying this to say we can't, on one side of the coin, meet the girl with the hair like that. And this is what helped attract the man to her. And then you come,
Absolutely.
exactly. And now you're coming years later, not understanding what she's gone through, or whatever the case is, right? And saying, well, that have to change. Well, there's a cause and effect, a ripple effect. If you've been covering your hair for a long time, the transition might not be that easy.
Well, Elder, I saw one sister called me and told me that she heard about the so-called Indians praying over the hair. And so she had been using yarn in her hair to try and not be using this so-called prayed over hair.
Okay.
Now, the funny thing is that I find it absolutely impossible that this hair, this so-called hair that they have in these stores that could fill Australia, is human hair. It does. I've done hair before in my past, and it doesn't respond like hair. It doesn't work like real hair. If they have two strands of human hair in it, they can call it human hair.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two is that whatever they have, a lot of it's synthetic hairs. It's not necessarily even called human hair. Some of it's literally called synthetic hair.
Okay.
But I kind of think about that scripture where Paul says, when you're buying meat in the shambles, not to even ask them, what is this? Is this sacrifice to your God? Because their gods are no gods. We're not afraid of your gods. Our God is the most powerful God. And that's not to say, okay, fine, forget about it, don't worry about it. But it's just the idea that when these sisters are trying to put these pieces and different things in their hair, it's certainly not an insult to our brothers. It's not saying that we don't like who we are as Black people. We're some of the most beautiful creatures on this planet. At least that's how I feel. But the idea is they want to feel, like I said, normal. They want to feel like desired. And the truth of it is that most men like hair that flows. They do. They like that big head of hair. They like it, and they should, because it's normal. It's what the Most High had us with before we turned into whatever haughty sisters we had become. And so it's difficult for us to now walk around with less than what others have and feel normal.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that out. We have Sister Shirley with our first installment of Sofa Talk with the Gathering of Christ Church. Sister Shirley, let me ask you, because earlier I spoke with you before coming on, and we were going to just do a pre-recording, but I said, you know what, let's go live with it, because you hit so many points that women understand that we might not understand. So outside of right or wrong, okay, if we understand how someone feels, okay, maybe the approach is better on how to correct anything that could be perceived as wrong. So I thought that we'd have, you understand? So I thought that we would get some understanding outside of just saying, well, this is right or this is wrong. I don't believe brothers anywhere should take our radio program or anything we say in particular as a point of emphasis or law to browbeat anyone in their homes, including their wives. Okay, number one is there should be a transitional period that should be agreed upon in the house. And then we have to deal with this side of the spectrum, Sister Shirley. There are brothers out there who like how their wives' hair look.
This is true.
I mean, with the weaves or the wigs or whatever the case is. That's something that they like as a couple. Okay, so a man cannot be a lord over someone else's house. Okay,
I love that.
You can't do that.
So true.
But
So true.
the overarching point of the conversation, not emphasizing here at all, is what are we doing as adults or individuals that we don't understand that's adversely affecting the generation under us. So even though this is, you understand?
I do. I just want to throw out there in 2 Maccabees 4, 7 and 15, I think it was, it talked about how we preferred the glory of the Greeks, And so sometimes I think that women do those things because we believe that's what the men prefer sometimes. And I mean, it's all about perception. And if you think that, it's kind of hard to get past it. That's what the whole world portrays out there. And I agree with you that we certainly should not be lording over anyone's house, ruling over anyone else's servant, because some of the brothers do like the way their sisters look with whatever they've done, whatever creativity, because even you got to look at it that way, that they have become creative. And this is their creativity. Some of the sisters look so beautiful and so elegant. Now, I do know the problem does lie in some areas where it becomes generational, where you wore wigs and weaves, so now you're putting it in your children's hair, and then they'll put it in their hair, and it just goes on, and maybe it affects the fact that the child's hair is not working properly because of what you're doing. But there is another side to this, that because the sisters have been in such pain, many of them have done two or three things. One, they may have permed their hair because it's easier to manage when it's permed. If you've ever had the natural styles, oh my goodness, they take hours to take care of. It looks simple. You go outside and you got all this big fro or nice natural style going, but at night you're braiding, you're twisting, you're rolling, you're using water, you're using conditioner. It's not simple. Whereas if you had your hair permed, you wrap, good night. You're up in the morning, you let it drop. It's easier. Now, that may not be an excuse to continue, but that is in some instances why sisters perm their hair. Then we went with the braids. And Lord knows, they beautiful styles and creativity. But now look at the result of some of our sisters. Their edges are back to their shoulders, ripped out from trying to braid it, and they have no hairlines from the braids. Even when they went to the locks twisting and twisting and twisting. And then you got to ask yourself, why were the brothers' locks all beautiful and the sisters, most of them, losing their hair, coming out? I've seen brothers, even when the afros were out, the brothers' afros always looked much more beautiful than most of the sisters. And I understand it as part of the curse. So this hair thing is generational, it's been difficult, and it's not simple to deal with. But it would be, I'm going to give you one example of one sister where the brother was actually coming down the hall, and she was in the bathroom doing her hair, and she had taken out her pieces. And he saw her. He backed up down the hall and made some noise, so he would know she would know he was coming, and give her a chance to get herself together to keep her pride in place, so that she didn't feel, oh my God, look, embarrassed or what have you. And it goes to that extreme sometimes. And I applauded that brother because he was her covering. He covered her shame and her sin and her embarrassment, and he kept her heart in place. And I think that that's how our brothers have to see it, in that way, that it's something that's close to us, it's tender to us, and it can harm us, but we need the understanding about it. We need it.
Okay. Well, Sister Shirley, that's why I have you on the line, okay? You are a woman who, I would say the senior of sisters, and you're looking out, and you understand, and that's what the Bible talks about, that elder sister who the sisters, the young virgins, can go to without being criticized, without feeling that someone will judge what they say, even if most people, it's hard to get it out, but someone that's patient enough to hear them outside sometimes the abrasiveness of the men. You understand? So I thank you for that. But you put out so many great points, right? Right. And I want to talk about some of the things you pointed out earlier. But before I do that, one thing you said was this generational thing where not only are you struggling with it, that's one thing, but then because of the insecurities and the curse, you now push that on your daughter, and she begins the same generational insecurity learned by you, that learned behavior. So it's one thing what you're talking about concerning a person's insecurities and what they're dealing with personally. And what we were talking about on the radio show, I think, and I'm glad you pointed that out, more so is why have what you feel that you know, that void? Why teach that adverse thing to your children or to your daughter instead of making her feel proud and nurturing and caring for her hair so she don't feel like we felt?
Okay. Now I'm going to tell you, I think that in some instances, it's not that you don't want your child to feel proud, that the sisters are not doing that.
Okay.
But children are so cruel to one another. So you get one little sister going to school, and for lack of a better way to explain it, her hair looks picky. And it can, especially when it's not growing properly. It's miscellaneous type hair growing. And then she's in school with the other kids. She's being picked on because her hair does not look, I don't want to say presentable, but it doesn't look as nice as the other children's look, or it's just a target. And so the parents will put braids in their hair until it grows to a certain length. Sometimes, if they know how to do it, it will help and it will grow it. But it has it can have an adverse effect, because then the child is used to wearing these weaves and wigs and can't seem to find any other way to go with it. So it's not that they're just trying to teach them, or it's just trickling down where they just want to, okay, well, we're all wig wearing fools. No, it's just that sometimes they're trying to save the child, especially in some of these schools with our people. Lord knows our people need so much help. They'll pick on you to death. They'll pick on you if you have hair, long hair, and they'll pick on you if you have no hair. But the no hair child is picked on more than anyone else. So the parent trying to keep her child at least as part of the peer group will sometimes put these braids in her hair just to make her feel more comfortable. Now, I know I saw some kids that were playing together, and there were little white kids playing with them, and they were all running, and the little white girl's hair was flying in the wind and what have you. The little black girls went and got sweaters and tied it on their heads to let it look like something was flying. And I felt like, my God, this is scary. And so it's not that they're trying to teach them to be a part of the curse. They're hurting. Everyone's hurting when they're doing these things. They're trying to, here again, back in that word, look normal. They want to feel feminine. They want to look like women. And in their soul, that's how they feel. Now, I've seen, and I've worn natural hair, beautiful. It can look really, really beautiful if you have any hair. I've seen sisters that have really short hair with nice styles, but usually the texture's a little softer. And if it's not, some people can wear it short and look right, but some people don't feel good about short hair. They just don't feel good about it. And I hope I've answered that question, because I can start ranting.
Oh, don't worry about it. Now, okay. What I'm going to talk about is the fine line between necessity. I'm doing it because I need it.
Okay.
And vanity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fine line between necessity and vanity. But let's not talk about that yet. Right? There's a fine line. Now,
okay, I know where you're going, and I'm ready to throw it out.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, Sister Shirley, this is. Check it out. I'm listening to you. I'm listening. And you know what's deep about this? That I hope brothers and sisters can examine? You can say what you just said, sister, with no backlash at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to say the same exact thing you've just said, I would be inundated with email and offenses.
Well, that's true, and I might still get some. However, what I do want to say is that you got to think about our position. Women have, oh, they'll deal with the shortcomings of our brothers to no end. They'll take a brother that just came home from jail, one that's going to jail, one that's in jail, and stay with them. Take care of them, love them, bear their children. All those things. Someone asked about him, they try to make it look like he's the greatest man on earth. That they're covering, they're supposed to be taking care of us. They're supposed to care for the family. We're not walking around with signs saying, he ain't got no money. He's in jail.
Oh, I heard. Hold up, I've heard that now. I don't know the last time you've been online.
I mean, I'm talking about sisters that are out there and over the top. I'm talking about sisters that are trying to walk upright.
Okay,
and that are trying. Of course, you're gonna always have some sisters that are gonna drag the brothers down in the mud, and you're gonna have some brothers, like you said, that don't mind their sisters wearing that style and it look good.
I'm saying, but in agreement with you, even in the world, sister, you see these brothers driving sisters' cars, sisters putting them in houses, taking care of a brother. I mean, you'll see this disproportionately in our communities, and it's so.
Absolutely.
And you know what? They see the shortcomings. And a matter of fact, there's a lot of women who help raise a man, seeing a man's potential. And soon as that man assumed that potential and become what she's seen, that diamond in the rough, and become that guy that she helped make, he'll dump her and go find someone else. I've seen it.
I've seen that too.
I've seen
that. That's what I'm saying, that the sisters have carried the torch forever. And now here they have this shortcoming where they want to have, they want to feel normal. They want to have this hair. And now they're being, I don't like that, get rid of that. And the funny thing is that you let a sister walk in, two twin sisters, two sisters that look just alike each other. One has hair blowing all over the place and the other one doesn't. He's going to pick the one with the hair. At least that's the way it looks to most of the sisters.
Okay.
And when I hear a lot of times when I hear a brother saying a lot of things about, no, I like a natural sister, I like her to wear her hair this way. Sometimes I look at their wife or their sister, and she's got that soft hair. So it's like, well, okay then. Of course you want a natural sister. But I want to hear what you're saying as far as necessity versus vanity.
No, that's not necessity versus vanity. There's a fine line between the two.
Okay.
Because what I hear normally when the hair is discussed is the things related to the curse.
Okay.
And I rarely hear the vain part of things. That's more so the norm with this particular generation. But we're going to talk about that a little later, because it goes into a thing where it's no longer because I got kinky hair or I got this or that. There's a fashion aspect.
Absolutely.
That leads into vanity but I'm saying this because we know many women with the good hair you're talking about, with nice hair, who will wrap their hair up and put different styles and different hair in it that don't relate to the curse portion.
Is it true?
So you have that too. They just don't want to take the extra time that it would take to actually do it. Now, I don't know if I can talk about this because I never had to deal with it, but there's still you very rarely hear anyone or sisters talk about that particular side of it. That listen, I'm doing it even though I'm fine the way I am, but I just want to look good. Okay? I got the hair to look good, but I just don't want to deal with it. Right? But we're going to deal with that in a second. Let's go back to the points. Let's go back to the points, right? Now.
Okay.
And let me put this out there. Sisters and brothers out there, when it comes to the hair and all that That's your hair.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you have to live with yourself, how you look, and feel good about, yourself.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no one out there should be able to affect that adversely. What goes on between what a man, especially a wife, okay, a wife, if her husband is fine with it, that's no one's business. Let me make it clear. That's his
That's
wife.
That's true.
Okay.
And I just want to throw out there that there's a couple of sisters that were saying that, now their husbands are saying, look, get rid of that stuff, get it out your hair, because they learned from the show that it shouldn't be.
Oh, well, listen, that's not what that wasn't the objective of the show at all. A matter of fact,
Look,
the show was colorism and things that are going on with our sisters using bleaching their skin, not appreciating their beauty, and also okay, and also on top of that, showing the negative effects, alopecia and sisters' hair falling out and all those things, showing, well, listen, it's one thing for us to do it, but what are we teaching our children?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I don't know if I can do this going forward, but I open it up where let's just speak candidly about
Absolutely.
about the things on either side that we should just discuss, to have the conversation so that our children will know that we can do critical, constructive dialogue that leads to solution without being offended. Because why? If we don't talk about it, if we don't have this conversation like you and I, Sister Shirley, right now, right? If we don't have this
Right.
conversation, what is the blowback on our children who are suffering from the same things that you're discussing right now?
Well, they definitely have to have an education, but like you said, there also needs to be a transition period.
Exactly.
It's almost like when you go out with those starter dreads, it could be scary.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, the discussion wasn't so someone can go in their home and say, right now, we better, nah. We have to transition and be patient and work with our brothers and sisters. But we still needed to have the conversation. It wasn't to make a law. A woman buying a pack or putting something in their hair, whatever, and styling their hair is not a bowl of chitlins. It's not a pork chop sandwich. It isn't bacon. Okay,
so true.
You understand? So
This
there's
is so true.
so there's no law. So we can't make a law within ourselves and try to now become lords over the Most High's flock. The discussion was to protect our children, to have it where if sisters do desire to do that, and it's fine, that they make sure they spend that extra time with their children and say, listen, this is what happened to me, and I know what's going on with me, but no, I'm going to help you work this out so you don't have to do this in the future, so you can feel good about yourself, spending that extra time. And we did that from the woman's perspective when it came to that one thing, and we talked about things from a man's perspective, the things we do that contribute negatively, that's making this generation X of young men this feminine thing and all that's going on with our young men right now. So
it's true, but
yeah.
but Elder, sometimes there are people that have children. I've grown up with them, and their hair just does not grow. Doesn't grow.
I understand that point. So let's jump. Okay. So let's hit some quick bullet points real quick. When I talked to you today about the discussion, right? You said initially some of the responses was some sisters were offended.
Yeah.
So tell me, what in that discussion we had a few weeks ago offended sisters?
Well, the offense is that when you're saying to them they need to take this stuff out of their hair, and that natural hair is the way to go, when it seems to some of those sisters that the brothers always go out with the sisters with the softer hair.
But what's the offense? But what's the offense, though, sister? What were they saying? This is what was said that offended me.
It offended them that they felt like that someone would come and tell them they need to take this stuff out of their hair when they're only trying to be beautiful. They're only trying to make themselves look right, to look normal. like as if someone would be offended if they told you, if you had a false tooth in your mouth. Come here, let me see that. Let me come into bed with a microscope. Let me see if you got a track in your hair. Uh, Coming up, let me see if that tooth is real. Come here. Pull that tooth down. It's like, what are you doing that for? If the tooth makes your face look better, why are you trying to pull this tooth out of my mouth?
Okay, so
Why are you
okay,
trying to ask me? And
okay,
it's like you're going in and trying to discover, is this beauty, is this real, or is this Maybelline, or what have you? And so the sisters were offended about that because all they're ever trying to do is to keep looking beautiful for their husbands, for the rest of the people that see them. Women want to be beautiful. They
okay.
just do.
Oh, okay. Now understand that. Now let's deal with it from a different perspective now, right?
Go ahead.
So what I'm getting with this, and we had Sister Shirley from the Gathering of Christ Church, Sofa Talk, first installment with the Gathering of Christ Church. What I'm getting from this is, I'm a male. I mean, we was talking about the things that are ill in our communities with the colorism, the separation, and the different things, the cosmetics, or whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I can interpret what you're saying is, sisters were offended because we talked about it. Can we say that in a nutshell? That it shouldn't have been discussed?
I don't. When you say talked about it, it was more on a negative side, meaning
Yeah.
stop doing it.
Yeah, that's what.
I think,
Now,
and I think that's what the problem
okay.
was.
All
I
right.
think.
Okay. So let's do it this way, sis. All right.
Huh.
To meet in the middle, right? Let's do it this
Mm-hmm.
way, right? It's talked about. I heard what was said, right? It's talked.
Mm-hmm.
I heard what was said, right? How do we stop these things of what we would call inordinate dysfunctions from affecting our daughters going forward?
You're saying if you don't
no
talk
no
about
no
it, how do we? Yeah.
no. This is what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now we've had this discussion. What's the
Mm-hmm.
piece that we all can take from this outside of the talker and the listener? Now we're going to have. So now I'm going to ask you. How do we help our daughters not suffer from what sisters are suffering from or dealing with all this negative that comes with having to deal with their hair? Or do we just
Okay.
allow the daughters to continue in it? What would be your advice? Because
Well,
I'm saying that because the discussion really wasn't aimed towards sisters like
got
that.
it. Mm-hmm.
See, but that's how it's being perceived.
Okay. Okay.
Because
So
no,
I think I get that, and it's like anyone that's hurting. When you say something, it's gonna offend because they're already hurting, you know. But for the sisters, we could, kind of start maybe some educational classes. We could start looking into more things that can help our sisters' hair. Number one, head coverings have been a godsend for us because if your head is tied up and your hair is covered most of the time, half of that battle is won.
okay.
But the thing about it is, with the sisters, we could also get some education on how to possibly take better care of the hair, how to eat better, what makes the hair grow, and how we can help on that level. Um, for us all, like if those that have alopecia, even short hairdos look terrible because you're talking about little places in the head that look like quarters where missing spots of hair, and it just doesn't look good at all. So it's a hard place.
So
But with children, with the braids, knowing that putting these extra hairs can sometimes rip your hair out, depending on how you're putting it in there. Education is important to let them know, but I have also seen children that their parents have put the extra extensions in and they wore it until their hair grew. a length, and then they were able to take them out. I've seen that happen, but it depends on taking care of it too on that level. And the different types of hair require different types of maintenance. You softer hair breaks so fast, so it's so delicate, and the harder hair, the coarse hair can take more. So there's a lot that sisters have to learn, and maybe the sisters can get together and we can form an alliance and put it together so that we can start talking to one another on how to help our children deal with that. But it just feels funny for it coming from our brothers. It's almost like, if I can be so bold, a Caucasian using the N-word. You're not allowed to do that.
Man, it's that deep?
Yeah.
Lord, have mercy. Sister, let me say,
Exactly.
hey, sister, so let me come from this side then, now.
Go ahead.
Right? A man, and this is from a perspective of Corinthians, man, right? The head of the head of Christ is the Most High, and the head of man is Christ. On earth, the head of the woman is the man, and the woman is over the child. Right? That's the proper. That's proper order.
Is it true?
Now, if the man is the head, it's upon the man to spearhead the conversation. It's upon the man to talk about things. You understand? And what I'm saying is, because
this level.
I'm saying, but this is what I'm saying, sister. If it wasn't for the men spearheading this conversation, then the resolve that you're talking about bringing with sisters would have never developed.
I'm not positive of that, because there are sisters that are careful about that and will not let their children put weaves in their hair, even though they wear them.
Okay.
There are sisters that do that.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna let you get your point out, because
the reason why it's delicate too is the sisters are wearing the weaves and these hairdos because they believe in their heart. From what they see, it's what the men want.
Okay, that's good.
And I that scripture in 2 Maccabees just keeps coming to me, 4:7-15. When you get a chance, I want you to read it out. But because the thing is that we think that this is what, even though it comes out of the man's mouth, that they don't like it, they don't want it, they don't want to see it, they don't want to hear it. It's who's on their shoulder. It's who's walking by them. It's who, when that person walks by, the response that we get when we see it. And so that's why it becomes a delicate situation. Now, I agree that the man is the head, and I'm certainly one to be in submission to my husband. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, I think if a husband one-on-one went with his wife and they were talking about these items, I think that would be received better. But in an open forum like that, I'm not sure that is the reason for it, for the offense. However, I think that it's a shortcoming of a woman, and it just looks like it's just being waved out in front of everybody, and everybody's having a good laugh, and it's embarrassing.
Okay.
I mean, look, snatch a woman's wig off and see what the response is.
Okay.
It's just, people are rolling out there.
Well, sister, sister, I'm with you, but you're going to through some extremes. I'm going to say, maybe I'm not looking at this to the degree in which I don't equate that conversation as going down the street snatching off a sister's wig. But you're saying, well, this is how we feel.
Well,
right?
In a sense, to some of the sisters, it is.
Okay.
Some of the sisters, like I said, might have taken it, very well, and, agreed and felt like that. But for some of the sisters, they really felt like this was an offense. That,
Okay.
come on,
No.
we don't look
No.
at your shortcomings like that. It's almost like us on the talk show. We get a talk show going. Well, which one of your brothers are not working, and what can we do about that?
Okay.
How long hasn't he been
Okay.
working? Why he can't make enough money to take care of you, and what can we do about that? Now that's a very, very hard thing to do, and it's the truth in many instances, but it's not something that is going to be felt good by a brother, especially if he's in that position.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's
Well,
what
sister,
we deal with.
this is what I'm saying, and I think that goes into, and it's no right or wrong. It's the clear difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's the clear difference between a man and a woman.
Right.
When it comes to the
Right.
emotions, and men giving honor to the woman as a weaker vessel have to understand, and that's why I put it out there. It's extreme. From a man's perspective,
Yeah.
it's extreme. We don't know to some degree what to say in some instances. If we think that saying this will be the equivalent of me going down the street grabbing someone's hair off their head. But if that's how our sisters feel, we have to understand that they're going to view it that way, and try another approach if possible, right? So, but I want to talk about this because, on the other hand, we've received sisters who have taken a stance on their own without even their husband saying anything,
It's true.
and receive positive responses from it. So that's the pros and cons of this. It's not a quick fix that's going to satisfy every individual.
Agreed.
But it depends on your vantage point and what you've struggled with. Some people, some sisters, and I'm going to call one in now, found the courage to do something that they were thinking about a long time ago. But couldn't exercise that courage until actually being inspired through that broadcast.
And I agree with you on that portion. I think if it would have been more in the area of, I wish more sisters would wear their natural hair. I really love it. It's nice, but it just took such a negative view about those that don't.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there was a time when we first started learning, this, the stuff about who we are and what have you. Oh my goodness. You could go so pro-black that you'd hate anything that had anything to do with European, the look on that level. But the thing is that after a while, you sit down and you decide what works for you, what works for your family, how you like it, and the courage to do so, the courage to wear how you want to wear your hair, and what makes your hair grow, what makes your hair, keeps it manageable, and things of that nature. And I know that the style has come out for, like every other style that comes, the afros, the braids, the locks, what have you. The styles have come out, and you've seen the sisters with the natural styles, and some of them were so fly. Oh my goodness, some of them were so awesome, but they're very hard to take care of, very hard. And when I say hard, time-wise, when you come home, you can't just go to bed. You're up, you're working, you're twisting, you're doing things. And maybe that's necessary for us. Maybe that's part of our curse. That's what we have to do. But what I am saying, and I'm not saying that the broadcast should not have taken place, what I am saying is we're talking about the response from some of the sisters that are in that position, that are hurting, that have tried many things, some of them that don't have any more edges, some of them whose hair is ripped out, and they go to these places and spend millions trying just to look right again. So it's not so much that the broadcast couldn't be helpful to some, because it could. I just know that there were some that were hurt by it.
Okay.
And they did, those that felt really good about it probably wouldn't do a whole lot of contacting. So there may be more out there than we think.
Yeah.
But those that did get hurt by it, Wasn't like they said, look, we're leaving the church. But one sister asked, we need another rebuttal to this conversation. We need another broadcast. We need a part two or what have you. It wasn't fair for the brothers to get up there and say the things that they said because they're doing the best they can to look beautiful. But go ahead, Elder. I'm sorry.
I understand. But like I said, it was an open discussion. And it was it was an unselfish open discussion. When I say unselfish, it was more so considering our next generation.
Yes.
Opposed to our own selfish wants. And when I say our own, when I say
I need you to qualify.
Let me expound or clarify that, and let's not apply this to sisters. Okay. Let's apply it to the men we spoke about. Like an example I gave was the selfish men who sell drugs and kill our people in the communities, and they excuse it by claiming I gotta feed my family.
Right.
They
understand that.
Yeah. They talk about what they've been through and how their upbringing was always the streets, and this is what made them, and this is how they think. This is what they're dealing with. And this is, they got to survive in this jungle, and they excuse it off by killing our brothers. And they may have a point saying they need their bills paid, they need to protect themselves, they need to make sure that their children have a better life, right? So the whole thing is we brought that out in the same broadcast. You understand?
Yeah.
But it wasn't about that person's selfish view on why he's doing it. What are you doing to your community? And what are you doing? What are you teaching your son? That it's okay to do this for your family while the whole nation suffers? Is that what you're teaching? And see, and that was the overarching purpose of the discussion itself. But it seems like that particular point stood out based on people's personal hurt. And I'm not going to say they're wrong for what they feel. People have a right to feel what they're feeling.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You probably didn't hear from those that had a positive feel for it. You might not have heard from many of those, whereas those that are hurting will cry out, that squeaky wheel, is going to get the attention anyway.
But let me say this, and I can humbly say that I apologize right out. If anything came from that broadcast that could have made anyone feel less than who the Most High made them, they're trying the best they can. They've put down their sins. That wasn't the point of the broadcast to offend a brother or a sister. The whole point of the broadcast is to say, even though we're trying to cover up the best we can of our own blotches or our own insecurities, understand when that filters over to the next generation and care enough for how that's affecting them is what we're saying. That was the point, not what we're going through individually and whether or not I grew up and dealt with certain things. No, we all have our own insecurities and curses that came with us being under this man, under Rome. But all in all, I have to be careful to know, okay, when is it that my insecurities is now affecting my children, my son?
Right. Okay, yeah.
Now, do I owe this insecurity to him, or should I break the curse? That was the overarching point of the broadcast, not to point out, because our sisters are beautiful.
Yes, okay? They are. Yes, they are.
Listen, and all through my life, there may be beautiful people in every race, okay? Personally, myself, I would never deal or be with someone or even thought to be with someone in my life outside of my sisters.
I agree.
Okay, I'm putting this out there, and this was before the advent of the extensions. This was before the advent of the weaves and all that. We didn't know what that stuff was in the 80s and all that.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And our sisters were beautiful, and it was those sisters that made me come to a conscious decision that I don't need anything else. There's nothing better.
Right.
There's nothing better than this. And guess what? And I got a right to that opinion. And someone else from
Absolutely.
another race can look at it and say, well, that's offensive. That's not offensive. I have the right. Okay, I have the right to love, respect, and prefer the daughters of Zion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You do.
God's daughters. Now, being that I've taken that right, okay, and now we're teaching the Bible and having these discussions, and I know it's like ripping off the Band-Aid, but it's more so like, well, listen, let's talk about this, not to offend, because sisters and brothers at the end of the day going to do what they think is right for their home, and they should.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
know if your actions are affecting our children. Should they suffer? Are we now relaying our curses and handing down our insecurities to our children? And that was the really point of emphasis, Sister Shirley.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I get that. I
Yeah.
get that 100%. And there certainly has to be something that we can do about that. And
Yeah.
even when I talked to those sisters, that felt like it was not effective. Some of them don't have children, but nonetheless, the idea is still that we're all still toting these wigs or these hairdos or whatever that some sisters have decided to wear, or they think that, and it doesn't mean that they think they're not quote unquote beautiful or normal, I mean pretty without it, but they think it enhances their beauty. So it's whatever, like a sister will, if a sister, I've often said it, sometimes sisters don't have enough eyebrows, and so they'll add a little pencil to their brow to make it look better, because it makes it look like they're normal, like they
Okay.
have eyebrows, or if they have the alopecia and the eyelashes are falling out. And then there are those that go to the extreme, where they look like it's like something up out of Star Trek. And we do get that too. But the idea is, we do definitely want to not give insecurities over to our children. And it's kind of difficult not to do as I say, not as I do.
Okay.
But that we can try and explain to our children why we
Okay.
don't want them to wear it and why it shouldn't be worn.
Okay.
But then what do you do with the child with the picky hair in school that's being picked on because she's gone to school and she looks like that? Now, I remember, and I just want to throw this out there, when I was a kid and the afros were out, and there was this young girl that was coming to school, and she had natural hair. Her hair, she wore it natural, a big natural, and everybody else had to press and curl, because that was just the way it was. Our parents would get angry at us if you came home with an afro in those days, because they didn't understand it. And so she was picked on in school and harassed. And so just being cognizant of what happens when your child, it does not seem to quote unquote fit in. If we can keep our kids in our community and they don't have to go out there and be among the I don't want to say the powers that be, then that's a different story. But there has to be, as you mentioned earlier, a transition period. How do we move forward from this? And okay, hopefully sisters that were offended can kind of feel a little better about this conversation that we're having now, because at a bare minimum, their side has been heard.
Okay.
At a bare minimum. So maybe the discussion will be a little bit more better received at this point.
Okay.
In the sense that they have been heard.
Okay. And that's what's important. I mean, you have you have a bunch of men, headstrong men, looking to guide the nation, wanting what's right for our people, seeing sisters suffer, seeing brothers suffer, and coming with strong opinion, without levity, without the balance of having a sister like you come on and give a balance to it. And I appreciate that, because you have to know that our intentions aren't to offend our sisters. It's to help them out of this. That's
Absolutely.
and it's through the spirit of love we're having these discussions. I've seen these brothers on the street that be calling our sisters all types of names, coming down on them, and you know that's not, we're not even, you would never hear that within our church. Ever.
That's true.
You would never. We respect our sisters. You understand? So I just wanted to say that it wasn't to offend anyone. It's to have sisters know that, listen, the Most High chose you. We're in the 11th hour before the Most High will deliver us and take away this curse. Okay? It's about us beginning to transition out of this curse, knowing that we're the children of Zion, and not perpetuating the curse, but finding a way to overcome it. Hey, Sister Shirley, I need you to hold for 1 second. I'm gonna bring in two separate people real quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
1 moment. All right. Real quick. Someone wanted to chime in, and we have a sister from the church in Philadelphia. Let me call her in, and then we have a sister from the church in Houston.
Okay, super.
Okay.
Hey, shalom, Elder.
Shalom, Bishop Amath. Is your wife on standby?
He's right next to me, Elder.
Okay, can you put her on?
Absolutely.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom, sister. You're live with Elder Rawchaa on our first installment of the GOCC Sofa Talk.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a podcast, and it's only going to be about 30 minutes, but we thought we would do a long discussion, you know, and a follow-up of that particular broadcast we have weeks ago. I know you've been listening to the broadcast on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
How did that
Been
discussion?
enjoying you both.
Thank you. How did that discussion a couple of weeks ago that we had when it comes to the curses, primarily the things that's going on with the sisters in their hair, and Elder Rawchaa just came out and says, one thing if I can fix is sisters need to put down the hair and the weaves and all that. And boy, did we get a windfall of email. I mean, Lord, we were inundated. We were inundated with, I don't know what they talking about. They shouldn't even be talking about that. Da 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 da.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm like, Lord have mercy. I mean, but sister, how did that conversation affect you? And give us some insight. Just give us some insight. Go on.
Well, every time you teach, Elder, it's self-reflection. And we're in the 11th hour. And me being the wife of somebody in leadership, I say, what can I do to improve myself so that we can make this kingdom great again? And for me, I said, every lesson you teach, I put away things. So it's like, wow, this is hitting home. I've been married to my husband for so many years, and he's always said, wear your natural hair. And I say, no, babe, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, you know, keep myself up and, you know, keep this fire burning between us. But never really listening to what he was telling me.
Hold up, sister. Hold up. So what you said was, even before the broadcast aired, your husband said for years, I would love you to wear your natural hair.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
And it took a couple of days. I prayed about it. And I just said, babe, take me to the hair store. I'm going to try to do a twist out. You know, I'm going to try to wear my hair.
Okay.
So I went to the store, got all the products that I needed, and I started twisting my hair. And I did the single twist first, and he looked at me, he said, babe, you're beautiful. And it felt good. But I think the biggest impact was seeing my daughter look at me and say, Mom, you need to do twist outs on me. And, you know, it became something where I saw she seeing me put these weaves in my hair. You know, it was doing something for her. And she looking at me, seeing myself embrace what the Most High made me to be, it was humbling. So, you know, we did the twist out together. We had fun. You know, we made an event out of it, and she's wearing it now. And, you know, she's so happy. Anybody she sees, she tells them, my mom did my twist. So, you know, 2 weeks now, we've been wearing our natural hair.
Look at that. So almost immediately there was a positive response from your daughter.
Yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you, sister. I got one more call. Now let me ask you, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel though? Are you still going through a transition, whatever the case is? Because I know it isn't easy changing something that you've been accustomed to for so long.
Yes, I've been natural since 2013, but I always wore protective styles. I switched it up here and there. I put color in my hair and stuff, but I just feel free. I feel free. I don't have any weight on me. I feel free. I feel, you know how you said you have that blockage going on? I feel free.
That's wonderful.
Praise the Most High.
That's
Praise the Most High.
wonderful.
See,
And I think that.
okay, sister, I'm gonna call you back later, okay?
All right, no problem.
Let me hear Sister Shirley, okay?
Okay, I think that even, you know, I'm really.
That kind of positive effect upon her and her child, and that's exciting to see and hear that. I think that most of the sisters that called in with the problems didn't have maybe as enough to twist, or had the problems with the alopecia or what have you, and would have to figure out some other way to go.
Okay.
In order to, you know, to say, okay, tomorrow, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not wearing this anymore. If you ripped out all your edges and all the front of your hair is gone, you have no hairline, it's not that simple to just come out and say, okay, I'm going to go natural now. And so they have some hard work to do. And I'm hoping that not even just because of this broadcast, but because they know of what some of this stuff is doing to their hair. It's pulling, it's hard. And I think it's designed almost to do that, to rip out your hair, the glues, the braids, all these things. It's almost designed to destroy the hair. And it's almost like caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping sisters can figure out how to do more. But okay, bring the next call.
And sister, you just brought out a point I didn't even think about. I'm about to bring in this next call, but you brought out a point I didn't think about. If someone is in a business to capitalize, right? Wouldn't they make a product in which it would lead to you actually purchasing more?
Yes, absolutely.
So the whole thing is, it's upon them to make the product so that sisters or women in general can lose their hair, so you will be more dependent on you will become a repeat customer.
And I think if that's brought out more, I think from that vantage point, you kind of get it more. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to give you a silly story that one time my sister and I, we used to go to this thrift shop, and we used to be in there every week buying. So one day the owner, these two Jewish people, took us to the door, and he brought us out and he showed us, he says, let me show you what you've just bought me. And he showed me his Cadillac out in front of the store. He showed it to us. He said, this is what you just bought me. You bought me. Because we frequented their store that often. Me and my sister looked at each other, and I tell you, we never, ever went back. We learned something from that moment, that we didn't need to keep spending our money that way. That this person had capitalized off of us, but our own fault, that we allowed it to happen. But the window opened and we saw. So, okay, so now from this vantage point, the sisters can kind of see, yeah, they're capitalizing off of you. They're ripping your hair out. They're making you buy more hair. They got your edges gone. Now you need a whole wig. And from what I understand, these wigs can cost hundreds and thousands of dollars. And so they go to this extreme, and it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
Our sisters, they're hurting people. Let's know that.
Exactly. So we have to understand how those that are actually suffering from not having the opportunity that brothers and sisters have now to actually do something about it. I mean, so we have to be careful or understand that, that sensitivity is out there, right? Hold 1 second here. I got to get one more call in, and then that will conclude. I'll give you the last word, but that will conclude our first installment of, that's right, Sofa Talk with the GOCC. And this has been wonderful too, sister. Thank you. All right, let me make this one phone call here. One moment. And this is sister from Houston, Sister Para'ama. Let me call her in.
Oh, goodness. Hi, Elder.
Shalom. How you doing, sister?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm blessed by the best. His name is Ahia. Talk to me. You said you wanted to chime in. I know sisters all over the earth is trying to chime in, but this is only supposed to be a 30-minute podcast, but we're going to start it off. We got these sisters. These sisters had to respond back. We had brothers speaking for sisters the other week, saying, listen, we need a sister's perspective on this. All right? And you know what? And we've given you exactly that. You understand? Is that, listen, there's two sides to the story, and as we heal this family, this nation, we have to have these open discussions for the sake of our children and break the curse. Talk to us, sister.
Well, Sister Shirley did a good idea of, a great job with taking each point. All I really wanted to say, my husband.
Hey, sister, if you're gonna come in, that phone gonna have to be right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
No, it sounds like you are underwater. Let's go into a private place where it's real nice and live on the radio.
It is all.
Okay, you sound perfect right now. Do you have me on speaker?
Yes, my husband is right here. I'll turn it off.
Well, yeah, that would be the issue.
Okay.
But go on.
Okay, so my husband really just wanted me to touch on some of the conversation he and I have had about natural hair. And the main thing is, I didn't go natural until I found out I was having a daughter. My initial reaction was, oh my goodness, I don't want her to deal with the stress that I had to deal with just walking out the door. If you don't have your perm isn't right, if your edges aren't right, if your weave isn't right, it just messes up your whole day. You're aggravated, you feel insecure. It's a whole process.
Okay.
So I had to learn, because women, like Sister Shirley said, most of us just aren't taught how to take care of our hair. My mom way to take care of my hair was to immediately give a perm. You get a perm and then you grease your hair. You know, the ladies know what I'm saying. You braid it, you wrap it, and that's it. And then you put your weave in it, your ponytail, your braids, whatever. So I never really knew how to take care of my hair.
Okay. So let me ask you, sister. Sister, let me ask you, because I'm asking openly. Were you personally offended with the broadcast a couple of weeks ago?
Not at all.
When Elder Rawchaa came out and said that, when he came out and said, well, if there's one thing I can change, is that sisters would understand they're beautiful and shouldn't deal with the hair thing and get these weaves and things of that nature. That offended a lot of people. Were you offended?
I wasn't offended at all.
Okay.
But I do understand why they were offended. If you would have said that to me a couple of years ago, I would have been offended.
Okay. All right.
But what I have realized is that it is more of the women trying to keep up with the other women. It's not really the men. the men don't care about weave. I have learned that they don't care about weave. They
Oh,
don't like it.
okay, sister, make one more point because I'm coming back to Sister Shirley in a moment.
That was it. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, because that's an element that we wanted to end it with. Thank you, sister. Great points. I'm glad you're chiming in. I said earlier, sister, there's a fine line between necessity and vanity.
Okay, yeah, you did say that.
And I'm going to let you end it with your opinion on what she just said. A lot of this have nothing to do with men at all. A lot of women do these things because of other women.
Okay. I cannot say that's 100% wrong, because other women can make you feel very uncomfortable about how you look and feel, and just being part of, the so-called, I don't know, clique gang or whatever it is that you're involved in. Other women, it can make you feel, and it can also have a positive effect. You can sit around a woman and you can look at her and say, wow, she looks great. And you'll go home and start fixing some things, because you feel like, but it's still all about the man. You feel like the men are looking at that woman. You feel like she is what's the acceptable. But in this world, we're taught what the European looks like is what everybody wants. And so we do hear from our brothers, no, I like you to wear your natural hair. I want it natural. I've seen a couple of sisters that went that route, and it didn't go over too well. But they did try.
Hold up. What happened? It didn't go over too well. What happened?
Well, their spouse didn't, I can't say this is 100% why, but their spouse started being angry at the way their appearance was. It wasn't good anymore. It just wasn't. Why don't you fix yourself up or what have you? But sometimes if you're like overweight or you need to do other things, and then all of a sudden you take off all the hair and your hair is that long, it might, the balance might not be there. So they needed to do some transitioning too, because if you change your hair, you might need to change your body too. But as far as how it would look. But I want to know what this vanity, the fine line, what do you mean by that? So I can answer that. But as far as what she said.
Hey, sister, let me give you an example of vanity. And this have nothing to do with anyone in the church or anyone who listened to our broadcast. Sister, it don't take too much for us to know if you look at TV or walk outside and see sisters, young girls, throwing that hair back and with the attitude and throwing the hair back and doing these things. It doesn't, I'm talking about a disproportional number of this particular society, generation that's coming up, is doing it. They're doing it strictly off of vanity. A lot of things, a lot of things you're saying right now is a result of people who are actually suffered after growing up past that point, and now they're suffering the consequences of their youth growing up not taking care of their hair.
Absolutely,
but
that's the truth.
But it's the vanity point that need to be dealt with at that young impressionable age, before the alopecia, before the losings of hair, before I have to cover forever based on these products I've been perpetually using. It's the vanity aspect that most people don't want to admit to.
Now, when you say the vanity aspect, so you're saying that they don't want to admit that they messed their hair up? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking
about their handiwork?
No, I'm not talking about their hair altogether. I'm not talking about after the hair fall out. I'm talking about the young daughters of Zion today, the young girls on Snapchat, all out. They got hair up under there, a lot of them.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
And
trying to look like this hippity hop and all the rest of it.
It's straight vanity. Listen, and I'm talking about girls with the quote unquote nice skin, lighter skin, and all that, with the good hair and all that. They're still doing it.
Yeah, this is the truth. This is the truth.
So we have to talk about that fine line that most people don't discuss, saying that, listen, I'm doing it because I want to look good, and it has nothing to do with nothing else. It don't got nothing to do with my hair falling out, the curse. I'm vain as vain can be.
Well, you know what, Elder? I think that we need to begin to start setting some standards for the Hebrew woman, for the Hebrew family. What makes us look Hebrew? What keeps us as one? And if we have, like for instance, you go in a Jewish neighborhood, and I was talking to someone this earlier about this. You can point out every person in there that's Jewish. The women have on wigs, all of them, the married women. And that's their thing. That's what they do, because that's what they claim. It's supposed to be that no one's supposed to see their hair but their husband once they get married. But I'm not necessarily in agreement with whatever they got going on. But what I'm saying is, if we set a standard, then we can go. The sisters would probably feel a lot better about what we're doing. Well, it's almost like, okay, so in GOCC, this is what we do. This is how we wear. Maybe we can do that. I don't know. Sister, because when you start talking about the vanity that we're all looking at the television and becoming, like what we see.
Okay, listen to what I'm saying, sister, because I don't believe it's that cut and dry, right?
Okay.
I think a standard has already been set by the Most High. His standard that a sister should walk in modesty. And the majority of us understand what that is.
That's the truth.
It's walking and doing things for the right reason. Not because of peer pressure, not because of what happened. It's because this is what's required to keep my purity and sanctity with the Most High. And a lot of us know what that is, but the world don't readily accept that.
Well, that's the truth.
So it's either we acquiesce to the world and suffer the curse, or stand with the Most High in modesty. And with modesty, and let me tell you, and see, we talk about a woman following a man, but eventually, from a man's perspective, the whole deal is this: if every woman decided to be modest, you think men wouldn't want black women? So it's a give and take on either side. We wouldn't be settling for a black woman. We would be getting the woman we had before all of this. We wouldn't be settling. But see. But I wanted to go into that and say, well, listen, there's two sides of this, and the open discussion and dialogue leads us to say, you know what? This is what the Most High want, and because of this, I don't want our daughters and our sons to suffer any insecurities that I had to bear and deal with.
So, Elder, tell me why you think the little girl picked the white doll instead of the black one.
Well, in that study, I actually looked at that video in more detail.
Okay.
It was more societal, based on the observations, them observing their parents.
Okay, so you're saying it's all parents. Can you do me a favor and just, before we get off, just read 2 Maccabees?
Okay, you said 2 Maccabees 4, go on.
7 through 15.
Okay, let me read this real quick. 2 Maccabees 4, 7 through 15 you mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, it says, but after the death of Seleucids, when Antiochus called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise and for the training of the youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians.
Mhm.
And when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. And the royal privileges granted of special favor of the Jews by the means of John, the father of Epidemius, who went ambassador to Rome to amity and aid. He took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law. He brought up new customs against the law, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. Now such was a height of Greek fashions, and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple, neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, after the game of discus called them forth, not setting up the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. And I understand why you're going here. This goes into when Antiochus was set up, and now our priests hand over the men and women, the young children, over to Greek and Roman fashion. That became,
And see,
yeah.
and I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go on. But that became the standard. But go on.
This is still part of our struggle. It's part of the struggle. And that the woman's hair, the scripture talks about the woman's hair being her glory. And we said that in the very beginning. The woman's hair is her glory. So it has something to do with us feeling like women. It has something to do with us feeling feminine. It has something to do with us wanting to have that long hair that we used to have. We do. We want it. We may get there and say, you know what? I don't want my child suffering. I don't want her going through what I'm going through, but we're all going through. And when you're going through it, you feel it, and it hurts. And there are some that are not quite as, I don't want to say cursed as others, but somehow they've gotten a little bit more, substance to work with, where they don't have to. Like I said, I grew up with children. The hair just never grew, just never ever grew. I don't know what that was, but it just never grew. Then I've seen people that they dye their hair red and the hair grows out because you see the hair is a different color after a while, but it consistently just breaks off. So we have a problem. We have these issues that we need to deal with, but we all need to be sensitive to one another and caring about one another, and realizing that being under the curse is not something you can just jump out of and say, you know what, I'm not being under this. Tomorrow, I'm being out of the curse. You're not out. Whether you can kind of wrap your head around it and go out with a bald head. There are women that have had the chemo and what have you. And I walked up to a woman the other day and I said, sister, how do you feel wearing your hair bald like that? How does that feel? She says, well, I had cancer and I had chemo, so I don't have a choice. And of course, I felt like an idiot that I walked over to her and went that route. But nonetheless, she got the strength, or whatever it is that we might call it, to go out there and wear her hair with nothing on it, but she wasn't happy about it. Not within her soul, because within her soul, she wanted her hair back. She wanted that hair. And so that's another transition that we have to be able to say, okay, well, I'm willing to walk in this curse or whatever.
Okay.
And just go.
So yes, we all know we're in transition, and sisters know that there's a transition. And what sisters are saying is be patient with us. Be considerate with what we have to deal with on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
and not
Absolutely.
just view it from a negative connotation or viewpoint. Understand that the women understand what they're struggling with, and it doesn't need to be put out on blast to the degree in which they suffer more emotional damage, and it's more so considering what sisters are going through, and us being men protecting their shame and helping them out of and helping them through this transition.
100%, I agree. 100%. And I just want to say this lastly.
Yeah.
You never hear the Caucasians saying to their women, "Why are you sitting in that sun trying to look like a Negro?" Or, "What are you doing pumping up your lips?" Or, because they perm their hair too.
Oh,
and they
my
perm it
goodness.
to make it more like ours.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't hear it. You don't hear their men parading them around saying, "Why are you doing that?" And they do more things than we could ever consider. A young girl was in the restroom with me, and she told me, for her birthday, her mother was getting her nose job done. And she was like 15 or something like that. And this is the conversation that they're having. And so, it's just that we need our men to cover our shame and not to parade it out there before the entire world.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's going to lead us to another discussion, right, sister? Because if sisters want that protection, it's what they're going to have to also understand and have to give up to receive that protection.
Okay, give up. What do you mean, give up?
What I'm saying
He had humbled the woman.
But this is what I'm saying though. What you're saying is good to a degree, and that's if a sister is willing to receive that.
Yes, I agree with that.
Right?
I agree with that. There's so much work that we need to do inside of our own soul.
Yeah. Like for instance, and I'm glad to hear that. Mm-hmm. We had some examples today where a husband is telling a wife, "I love you. I'm not going nowhere. Please do this and do that." But a confirmation had to come, and I'm glad it did, in a conversation that we had, to have her say, "You know what? I'm going to finally, listen to what my husband been telling me." You understand?
I agree. Well, like the sister that came on from Philly, her husband had been saying that.
Yeah.
My husband is a different kind of creature. When I was heavy, I would be complaining about it, constantly going, "God, I gotta lose this weight. He would go, "Honey, I love you like you. I love your fat. I used to get mad when he'd say it, but he would say, "No, you look good. This, and this, and this." And then finally, when I lost the weight, then oh my God, he's just going crazy. So I'm saying, you didn't really like me. You didn't.
But he did.
Just putting up with me. But I appreciated that he didn't come at me about it. But nonetheless, we do know what's preferred. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We know what's preferred.
Yes. Hey, Sister Shirley, I really thank you.
Yeah.
And I tell you this, I'm so excited for this academy to come, because we're going to be dealing with the family theme all through it.
That's wonderful.
We're going to be dealing with the aspects that most ignore and don't even realize how deep it is and how much the Most High God values family.
This is true. And that we need to keep the family together. That's for sure.
And he blesses through the family. Okay, he blesses. I'm telling you.
Amen.
Let
me say.
Yeah.
And
this is why these conversations, because the world has separated us to the degree in which, to some degree, we've become two separate beings, man and woman. And that wasn't so. It was man and woman from man. And we understood each other and sought to understand each other better back then. We've been separated. True. So now these conversations is, listen, and guess what? I'm going to say it again. Your husband was honest with you. He did love you. He did. He was. So don't see. Don't. No, I'm just saying, because men be saying, listen, you're fine. And it's still, no. And it's something about that was placed in a woman when the Lord says, I will multiply her sorrows.
Yes.
So it's sometimes that emotion goes well over to the degree in which it brings forth a different reality or perception. Your husband was right. Now, mind you, he probably like you better like you are, but he didn't like you less. He didn't love you less. So
he met me slim.
Yeah.
And then you had too much breakfast, but nonetheless.
I'm just saying, sisters have to accept the truth. Men are being honest when they say, listen, I love you the way you are. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, and I mean, women need to hear that from the brothers, because most of the time it's a complaint, but, and it might be the reverse too, that the women are complaining about the men, and we need to all learn how to walk in forgiveness. But I do want to just throw out there, when a woman is bald-headed, even the scripture says it humbles her, that she should be shorn, that she has no hair. And I don't know, maybe we have to be humble. But nonetheless, when our husbands, when we see that bald head, it's not a great feeling. It's just not.
Well, sister, I'm glad you brought perspective and a woman's understanding, not only that, a daughters of Zion's understanding to this particular discussion. And I believe that this will be the beginning of the healing of our daughters. You understand? And I'm talking about our young girls, our young daughters. You understand? Like AA. It's good to see. It's good to see us having an open dialogue. Brothers and sisters, elder sisters can discuss these things openly in an attempt to heal our nation. And that's how these discussions have to be, brothers and sisters. It can't be judgmental. It can't be condescending. We must be emotionally intelligent, have emotional intelligence within these particular discussions.
And I think that this should encourage the sisters to have pressed one, gotten to the host queue, and brought their opinions, said what they had to say.
Yeah.
I think there was a fear in doing that.
Yeah.
But I think they should have. I think they should have got right on the phone and said, this is the way it is. But
yeah.
A lot of the sisters didn't want people to know that they wear pieces in their hair.
Okay.
And so maybe that's why they were afraid to come forth. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, this discussion we covered.
So they called me.
Well, at least you know what? At least they have someone within the body, someone they can talk to. You understand? And guess what? There's some level of resolve to some degree. And you know what? No one is judging anyone. It's like we have the discussion, make sure we're knowledgeable of what's going on, and let's overcome some of the insecurities that have been placed on us. And of course, we're not going to overcome the curse overnight, but we have to be cognizant of what we do and how it affects our children. And that's the point above all. The next generation, we must get our children, the young men and women, the daughters of Zion and the Lion of Judah and the Israelite children, kingdom ready. And if it means us going through a little abrasive conversation to get there, so be it. Right?
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Praise the Most High.
Praise the Most High. Thank you, Sister Shirley. And this is our first installment of Sofa Talk with Elder Rawchaa, and we're going to have just discussions with individuals in the church, outside the church, and different topics, 30-minute snippets. We're going to try to do that once a week and just put it up online with Sofa Talk. And you have Sofa Talk with Elder Rawchaa. So also we're going to have an email strictly for this. So if someone want to get on the sofa and talk, hey, I got my sofa behind me. She have hers behind her. And sometimes we'll sit together. Well, thank you. Shalom. Thank you, sister. Wonderful as usual. Bless you.
All right. Okay.
Stay prayed up and sin not, brothers and sisters. And we will see you. We will see you this Sunday in our Hebrew and Bible Academy. That's right. Send an email to gatheringas1@aol.com or go to gatheringofchrist.org or mainly historytimes.org and enroll. You don't want to miss this academy. And I know you'll be there, Shirley.
Yes, I will. All right. Take good care now, Elder.
All right, bless
Shalom.
you. Shalom.
You too.
And thank you all for your participation and chiming in spontaneously out of nowhere. Thank you for participating in our first installment of You Got It, Sofa Talk with the GOCC. Shalom and have a blessed day. Shalom.